Hey guys, starting up chapter 10 here. Hopefully the test went okay for you. I'm sure if it didn't, we've chatted about it by now. But we are going to start chapter 10. Chapter 10, you're going to have a few formulas to memorize. We are going to be talking about what are called conic sections in chapter 10. So that's kind of the overarching chapter 10. The different types of conic sections, it's just the sections of a cone that make different graphs that we'll be talking about. But the ones that we're going to talk about are parabolas, circles, ellipses, and hyperbolas. That's a P, not a B. Okay, so for today, we're going to do 10-2A. We skipped 10-1. 10-2A, which is parabolas. Okay, do you remember the shape of a parabola? Hopefully. That's the U-shaped curve. It can look like this, it can look like this, it can go like this, or it can go like this. So up, down, left, or right, it can open. So we're just going to do a little intro into some parabola stuff first. So with that, let's just define it so everyone knows what we're talking about, because this definition helps a lot with what we're going to do today. A parabola is the set of all points, and they're all going to start like that, the set of all points, but then they change. So parabola is the set of all points the same distance from a fixed point and a fixed line. Okay, fixed point and a fixed line. So a point that doesn't move and a line that doesn't move. We call the fixed point that we're going to be talking about, we call that a focus. Okay, and then the fixed line is called the directrix. Okay, directrix. So I'm going to show you a graph, just a general graph of a parabola and the different pieces that come into play with it. This will make more sense the more we do here, but let's just draw a parabola. Okay, so let's say we have a parabola that looks like this, right? It's a U-shaped curve. Okay, do you remember what this point is called on the parabola? That is your vertex. Okay, and then it says that you have a focus and a directrix. The focus will be a point inside the parabola. Okay, your focus is always inside the parabola. Okay, so this would be our focus. And then we have the directrix, and the directrix is a line that the parabola never touches. So if you think about where you could put a line right now that our parabola would not touch, the only place we can do that is down here. Okay, so this, the purple line, is our directrix. Fun name, huh? Directrix. So just to keep in mind, this is a line the parabola doesn't touch. Okay, and it says up here in the definition, It's the set of all points the same distance from a fixed point and a fixed line. So basically what they're saying is if I pick a point here, for instance, on my parabola, the distance to the focus and the distance to the directrix will be the same, okay? Geometry, look at that, marking things congruent. If I pick a point over here, it's saying that this point to the focus and to, the directrix would be the same distance as well. So those lengths would be the same. Okay, so that's your general setup. There's one other line I want to talk about, and you guys have learned this one before. What is this line called? Do you remember? If we're looking at our parabola, we draw that line in. That is called your axis of symmetry. Remember we did axis of symmetry back in chapter 4. Often we just called it AOS, axis of symmetry. This will always, let's move this up a little bit, always go through the focus. Okay, so your axis of symmetry always goes through the focus, the vertex, and will be perpendicular to the directrix. Okay, so if you look here, this is 90 degrees. Ugh, I love geometry. Do you miss it? I miss it. I don't miss it because I'm still teaching it, but I miss having you in it. Okay, so that is kind of all the setup, the picture of it all. Now we're gonna do just talking about a parabola with a vertex at the origin. Parabolas with a vertex at the origin. Okay, and that's all we're going to talk about today. We'll mix it up, we'll move it around in days to come, but for today, our vertex is always going to be the origin. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. For this, we're just going to split this into two different types. Okay, when the equation is y equals a times x squared. This should look really familiar to you. This is a parabola you've seen before. This parabola, if you think about it, opening up, opening down, opening left, opening right, this format is going to be your opening up and opening down. When does it open down? Do you remember? Remember, this is if your A is positive. This is if your A is negative, that it opens down. Okay, so that's what we're going to write here. If A is greater than 0, so if A is positive, your parabola opens up. If A is negative, less than 0, your parabola opens down. Okay, the focus in this type of situation, the focus is always going to be the point 0, C, okay, where C is the distance from the vertex to the directrix. Okay, C is going to be the distance from the vertex to the directrix. If you look up here, we're talking about this right here. That's our C. Okay, and that will make more sense in a little bit when we start doing some of these. The directrix, okay, so we have the focus. The directrix okay, your directrix will be an equation, because it's a line, right? Remember, this is a horizontal line. When it's a U-shaped curve opening up or opening down, it's going to be a horizontal line, and horizontal lines are always y equals, and then it's going to be a negative c. So whatever distance we were up here with c, it's going to be the opposite of that, okay? So just keep in mind, this is a horizontal line. Okay. All right, then the other one is going to be just flip-flopped of that. X equals a times y squared. So we're just flipping our x and our y around, and these ones are going to open to the right and to the left, okay? So for this one, if a is positive, it's going to open right. Okay, so that's this one, when a is positive. When a is negative, so if a is less than 0, it's going to open left. Okay, so yeah, just clarifying. Opening to the right looks like this. Opening to the left looks like that. Okay. For this one, the focus is just flip-flopped. Everything kind of flip-flops in this when we use this new formula. So instead of being 0C, like we were over here, now we're C0, okay? Still where C is equal to the distance from vertex to focus. Okay. Oh, I wrote that wrong here. Sorry, vertex to focus. It'd be the same, just the opposite number. So vertex to focus, go back and switch that, I'm sorry. Okay, the directrix here. Your directrix, this was a horizontal line. This is going to be a vertical line for your directrix. So think about what a vertical line is. It's always x equals something, and it's still an opposite of C like we did over here. Okay, so a lot that's the same, but also stuff that is definitely different. What I'm going to show you right now is of the utmost importance. If you don't remember this, you won't be able to do these problems, and that is this. A will always equal 1 over 4C. Okay, you need to memorize that formula, which you shouldn't have too hard of a time doing. You're going to use it a lot today. But A equals 1 over 4C is the formula to know. Okay, so we're going to do a few of these. I know this is a ton of information right now. I think once you do them, it isn't terribly difficult. It just feels like a ton before you even get started. But once you get started, it's like, oh yeah, I got this. Okay, so here's what we're going to do with all this information. Example 1, they are going to say, find the focus, the vertex, the directrix, and sketch a graph. Okay, so we're going to start finding the vertex, and then we're going to sketch a graph to kind of help us lay it out, and then we'll find everything else from there. So the equation they give us for this one, they will give you this: y equals negative 1/16 x squared. Okay, so like we said before, these are parabolas that have a vertex of 0, 0. There's no B or C term in this setup, right? So your vertex is 0, 0. And that's going to be every vertex that we do today. Always going to be 0, 0. So now let's sketch it. Okay, if we're going to sketch this graph, first of all, I need to know, does it open up, down, left, or right? And if you think back to our chart here, okay, it looks like this equation, not x equals, right? And then it's got a negative, and that negative is going to mean it's going to open down, okay? So our vertex is 0, 0, so I'm going to plot that here. And we're going to open down. And it's just a general parabola. You don't need to plot any more points than the vertex. So it opens down like this, okay? From here then, we know we have a focus. We don't know what point that focus is. So this is going to be our focus. We need to figure out where is that focus, okay? The focus, like we said before, is always going to be 0, C. And we don't know what C is yet. C is this distance. Okay, it's the distance from the vertex to the focus. The way we find that is using our formula, okay? Because the formula says A equals 1 over 4C. We need C. We know A. What's our A term? It's that guy, right? So I know that -1/16 equals 1 over 4C, and I can just cross multiply that. So 16 equals -4C, and we divide by -4. So C is -4. Okay, that means my focus is 0, -4. Okay, that means this length here is -4. That's my C. Okay, so we have our focus now. Now what we need to find is our directrix, and our directrix is going to be a line that doesn't touch our parabola, so it's got to be up above, and it's going to be the same distance away. So if this was a length of -4, then we got to go +4 up here. So our directrix, and here's the thing, guys, don't tell me the directrix is 4, because that is wrong. The directrix is a line, and when it's a horizontal line, it's y equals, and then whatever your y value is, all the way there. So my directrix is going to be y equals 4, okay? Okay, example 2.
Mom, it says get a flashlight and read in the dark. I don't really want to.
Sorry, guys. Parenting, homeschooling, teaching, it's crazy. Anyway, example 2. Y equals 1/8 x squared. Okay, so same steps. We need to find the vertex. We said the vertex today is always going to be 0, 0, right? There's no B term, no C term set up here. Then we're going to sketch it. Okay, this one, y equals, so this is up or down. There's no negative, so it's up. So we're going to sketch it like this, okay? Our focus will be somewhere here, which means our directrix is somewhere down here, okay? So we have all these points. Now we're going to find our focus. Okay, and our focus is going to be 0 something. Do you remember how to find that something? That's our C, right? And the formula, the beautiful, beautiful formula that you're going to use all the time, A equals 1 over 4C, will help us find that. So we're going to take this 1/8 and we're going to put it in place of A. That's our A. So 1/8 equals 1 over 4C. And maybe some of you can see this right now. You're like, oh yeah, 1/8, to be 1/8, we would need our C to be a 2. So C is 2. Or maybe you don't see it, and that's okay too. 8 equals 4C. You just cross multiply it then, divide by 4, so C is 2. Okay, so our focus is going to be 0, 2, which means this length here is 2. Okay, so if that's our focus, then our directrix for the directrix, if I went 2 up to get to that point, then I need to go 2 down to get to that line. So our directrix is not -2, remember? It's the line y equals -2. Okay, not so bad, right? Totally doable. Okay. Switch it up a little bit. Example 3. For this one, it's going to look different. Now it's x equals 1/4 y squared. So you should see this and go, oh, we're not opening up and down anymore. Now we're going left and right, and this is a positive A, so we're going to open which way? to the right. Did you get that? So we're going to open to the right. Our vertex, still 0, 0. Our focus, let's sketch it and we'll take a look at what this should be. Okay, if I open to the right with a vertex of 0, 0, we're going to have a graph that looks something like this, right? That U-shaped curve, but on its side. The focus then, if you think about this, the focus is going to be somewhere over here, which means our directrix is going to be somewhere over here. Should have been the same distance away. Let's try that again. Okay. So our focus, remember on this one, before it was 0C, now it's C0. So I know this number is a 0. I need to figure out what my C is, and the way we find C is with our beautiful formula, A equals 1 over 4C. So I'm going to take this 1/4, and I'm going to drop that in for A. So 1/4 equals 1 over 4C. Well, 1/4 equals 1/4, so C has to be 1, or you can cross multiply it. Either way, C is 1. So my focus is 1, 0. Okay, that means this right here is a length of 1, which means this right here has to be a length of 1 also, but we're going to the left, so it's going to be a -1. So our directrix is going to be an equation. Now notice it's a vertical line, and vertical lines are always x equals. So our directrix is x equals -1. Not -1, right? X equals -1. Okay, last one. Example 4. This one is x equals -y squared. Okay. If we are going to, well, let's start with vertex. Vertex, again, 0, 0. Your graph, this is x equals, so it's going to open left or right, and it's a -y squared, which means we're going to open to the left. So here's my vertex. We open to the left. Okay. My focus is going to be in here somewhere, which means my directrix is going to be on the other side vertical so that we don't hit our parabola at all. So for the focus, okay, for this point here, that's our focus. We know it's going to be C0. Okay, we're trying to figure out what that point is. How far did we move to the left, but we stayed on the x-axis, so it's 0. So we're going to use A equals 1 over 4C. Okay. So when we do this, we're going to take this A term. A is -1, and -1 is going to go here. So it's going to be -1 equals 1 over 4C. So if we set this up, if we set this up -1 over 1, right, and then we cross multiply, we get -4C equals 1, and then we divide by -4, so C, let's just do this, C is -1/4, okay, so I'm going to put my C right here. So that's my focus. That means this length is just -1/4. Okay, well, it's 1/4 units long. So my directrix then, which is this line, right? My directrix would be, it's a vertical line. So vertical line is x equals, and we have to go the same distance away. So if we were -1/4 here, then it's +1/4 here. So my directrix is x equals 1/4. And that's it.